Hello and welcome to this video. Again, I have Mr. Rob Reed with me today. Good afternoon, Mr. Rob Reed. How are you?
I'm fine, Mr. Edwards. I'm good.
And he's obviously in his studio. He's surrounded by all his multiplicitous gear and blippy machines and all
Yeah,
sorts of.
I should have cleaned up.
Yeah, what are you
Anyway,
working on then?
what am I doing at the moment? I'm working on a new Magenta record. That's what I'm doing. So finishing that up at the moment. So taking forever.
Yes, well, I thought I'd get in touch with you because last year I think it was last year, we did a great video where you talked through the first three Mike Oldfield albums, which are the sort of classic ones that everybody knows,
Yeah,
which would be
yeah.
Tubular Bells, Hergus Ridge, and then Dawn. And for me, once I got into them, I realized they actually seem to be building to a climax. And many people think that Dawn is great masterwork.
Yes,
And last week I thought, well, I'll check out the one after it, Incantations.
yes.
I put it on, and within 1 week, it's become one of my favorite albums of all time. I haven't stopped listening to it. I think it is his masterpiece.
I think
Uh,
it is. Yeah, yeah,
it's incredible. I wanted to talk to you about that because obviously you are very knowledgeable on Mike Oldfield because of all the sort of work you've done within that area, working with collaborators and exploring
yeah,
the night, which I'm sure everybody who's watching this knows all about.
yeah.
So I thought we could sort of bite off the next three albums,
Yes.
really have a chat about Incantations because it's a very strange album to me.
Oh, it's a bonkers record, to be honest. And I think it is his greatest work. There's so much stuff in it. There's so many parts to it and sounds and things. I think it was weird because, as I said, it's you had the first three, which are like they were all massive, and it was a great time to make those records. And I think after the Omadon, you peak with that. It's like, well, how do you follow that up? It was bad enough following up Tubular Bells, and he struggled with Hergus Ridge, and then Omadon is like, oh yeah, this is brilliant again. And it's like, where'd you go with that? And I think he was struggling, and the record company was struggling what to do with him, and punk was coming in '77 and things. So after Armadon, he went and did a load of singles, Portsmouth and Industrial Jubilo, all the sort of looking for a way into the single charts and stuff. But and then it was like started making incantations, and I get a feeling, and I haven't read this anywhere, but I think someone at the record company said you need to go and listen to Philip Glass and Steve Reich, who is all like mathematics,
Mm.
classical, and there's somewhere to go with your thing because if the first half, no, the first side one of incantations is every key, every time signature, violins going everywhere, and it's very much like Steve Reich, his works, and as if the record company said you need to do this. And from what I've read, he basically went away and did it, come up with the first 25 minutes and was like, God, this is incredible. This is living up to my genius.
Mm.
And the record company came down to listen to it and were like, what is this? They couldn't understand it. It was so bonkers and so challenging. You know, and also at the time, as I said, the record is really in two parts where you got side one and side two, which is carrying on from Armadone and Hergus Ridge with all this lovely emotion and stuff. And then side three and four, there's more like rock drums, it gets into a groove and all this kind of stuff going on. And what happened in the middle of it, which is quite weird, you can hear it in the record, is that he underwent this sort of psychotherapy thing, one of these new age things in London, because he was in a mess mentally and everything. And that was what gave him Armador, Tubular Bells. That's what
Mm.
came out of all this chaos in his head. He went and did this modern therapy where they abuse you for 3 days, they break you to build you back up, and they sort of put you in a circle in the middle, and they all jump on you, and you're reborn, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, and he came out of that. He wouldn't, because before that, he wouldn't speak to any rec companies, living in the Welsh hillsides, nothing, didn't want to speak to anybody, shunned success, blew success in some respects, because he could have been massive. He went on tour. Everybody wanted him to. Didn't want to tour. Richard Branson. What am I going to do? I got this. So I did that, and he underwent all this sort of therapy and came out, cut all his hair, shaved his beard off. I'm going on tour. I want to speak to every interviewer. But he was halfway through the record, and he was like, "Oh my god, I got to go back to that now." And without all this angst to make side 3 and 4, and what you read, he sort of basically wanted to finish it and sort of rushed 3 and 4 and put it out, and then it came out right in the middle of punk in '78, and it was this work of art in my respect. I think it was, and people just didn't know what to do with it. And he went on tour with like a 80-piece band, lost all the money he had doing the tour, and lugging around this orchestra and everything, playing incantations in the first half and then tubular bells. But you can hear it when you jump from side 2 into 3 and 4. There's definitely parts where he was like, I don't know where to get that muse, that thing. He couldn't draw upon the emotion because it'd all gone, it'd all been taken out of him. And lots of people think that was that we lost a genius at that point. It made him better mentally, so he could deal with the world and go out and tour and stuff, but lost the creativeness. You know, it's what's best for you. Do you want to suffer in life
Yeah.
and have that or not? So
It's it, none of this actually helps, does it? Because I was really surprised when I first, because I heard the disc one first,
yeah,
obviously, as everyone does, and I was so bowled over by that. I've been listening to the album now solid for 2 weeks. I could hear that the two discs are very different, but the other disc seems to balance the first disc
yeah,
in a way.
yeah.
Really, it's not like it's a failure in any way, shape, or form. The
No, no,
second disc
no.
is wonderful, but he's actually filled with a lot of bravado. You hear his guitar playing for a start, which is
Oh my
quite
God.
incredible on here. It's a rock and roll album. He's almost like showing off. It's exuberant. He's just rocking out,
You can,
basically.
well, that's what you can hear because on side 1 and 2, there's very little guitar, and it's all the orchestra playing and choirs, and which we'll discuss now. All that going on. And side 2, you got Maddie Pryor doing the Hiawatha, which goes on
Yeah,
for long, but it's still great. And then side 3, it's like, here we go. And he starts and it's grooving along, and it's his best guitar solo on side 3. It just goes on for about
incredible.
3 or 4 minutes, and
Yeah.
it's going through every key, and he just, oh my god, it's the best. And all the Mike Oldfield fans, that's one of the best guitar
That's what
solos.
I'm saying. It's like when you look at the second disc, there's attributes about that. And I was bowled over by his guitar playing. And then I thought, this is really interesting because this album's coming out. It took a long time. When did you start work on it? 75, 76?
Yeah, it was after doing a couple of singles and stuff, and then yeah, it was a long time. And with that thing in the middle,
Yeah.
you got all that going on.
But when he comes back in 78, he's also doing bits of session work, isn't he? He's cropping up playing the guitar on other people's albums. I've got him on two Gong albums, and he
Yeah,
sounds fantastic on those. Brilliant guitar playing. He's become. It's almost like he was a reluctant rock star, the strangest rock star in 70s history.
yeah,
And one of the things I find with old, there's a lot that nobody ever mentions. He's a very handsome bloke. You could see that the record company often would put his face on the front cover.
yeah,
He was a rock star. He was enigmatic,
yeah.
charismatic, and then suddenly he's out playing the guitar, touring, playing on other people's albums, doing the Blue Peter theme, which I imagine was that point, wasn't it, when he comes out and
Well,
we were
was he?
all introduced to him as kids.
Well, he went from being like shy. He wouldn't speak to anyone. And I remember getting Sounds magazine, and he was naked on the front of the cover. It was like, what? What? Where? How can you go from that to that? And he just went. He was everywhere, as you said, playing on the Gong records and stuff. And again, I think the record company really struggled at that point to go, what are we going to do with this guy? He's done these three. He can't sort of keep doing it. he's got to go, where are we going to go? And on each record, like on Omadon, there was obviously he'd met Les Penn in the recorder player and stuff, and there was all this folk stuff coming into it, and all the African drums and things. And then you go into incantations, and I think they were just a bit lost. And it definitely that side one is definitely a nod to Steve Reich and Philip Glass. And then he covered a Philip Glass song on
Mm.
platinum on the next record.
Yeah.
But then from doing I think he just got bored of doing it. He underwent that thing, that change, and he came back and he was like, "Oh my god, I got to go back and make this record," and did it. And then the next thing he's doing, he's really lost anything, and I've given it everything. What am I going to do? And he goes, "Well, I'll go to America now." I remember because Incantations was the first album I bought in sort of real time. I was sort of too young to buy the first three as they came out, but Incantations came out, and that was the first record that came out, as he was releasing them. And then the next thing he brought out was like a disco single. He brought out Guilty, a track called Guilty, Four to the Floor, because he said to Richard Branson, I want to go to America. I'm going to go into um what's Ladyland, Electric Ladyland
Mm.
studios in America, hire all the best players. They were all like disco players and things, amazing bass players and drummers. And I'll come in and I'll make a record. And that's what he did with Platinum. He went in with a couple of ideas, on a back of a fag packet and said, "Oh, can you just jam this kind of stuff?" And they played it all, and he played guitar, and he made this pop album then with Four to the Floor. And I was, as a fan, I was like, "What's going on? What's going to be next?" kind of thing. But I love Platinum. Again, it's completely different, but never again after Incantations did he go back. He lost the ability to do the really emotive stuff. From then on, it was it was either synths or sequencers or
Mm.
it
And
was
then
it never had.
when he hooks up with the Fairlight, it really changes the sound.
But that was it, and that was the next. And he was always, I think he was struggling in what to do because he had Tom Newman to do the first ones, and Incantations was him on his own. I think it was the height of his powers because Incantations is the best sounding album. There's an interview with Trevor Horn, and he says when Incantations come out, that was the benchmark, and he'd play it when he was building his studio as a tester record. He'd play Incantations, and it is sonically, it's off the scale because
It's
it's all
it's just incredible, and that's what I want to try and get across on this video because uh, I've gone back to thinking about what I do on the YouTube, and of course the Holy Grail is the 10 greatest progressive rock albums list that I keep coming back to every couple
yeah.
of years. And straight away I thought this has to be on the list. This has to be on the list. This is one of the greatest progressive rock
Mm,
albums ever made. And there's so much to talk about here. One is that coming out in 78, it's also coming out with Sky, which was a massive, big cultural thing here in the UK that no one
yeah,
mentions anymore.
yeah,
War of the Worlds, which
yeah.
I've now decided is another album that should be
Oh,
listed in the 10
oh,
greatest progressive rock albums
absolutely,
of all
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Absolute masterpiece.
yeah,
You've got Variations by Andrew Lloyd Webber,
yeah.
and then you've got this Incantations. Now, this did sell, didn't it? I mean, how you couldn't expect it to sell in Tubular Bells numbers, but it hit the charts, didn't it? And
It did sell, but there was no single on it, and they
no,
were really into singles those times. Like how do we market it? Luckily, he went on tour, but then people had to sit through the first half. If they hadn't, everyone came to hear Tubular Bells,
yeah.
so they'd have a shortened version of Incantations, and that it did sell. I remember the adverts on TV for it, and it was a big comeback thing, and but it never. It was just it missed this moment really. It was
Mm.
an album that should have come out in 75, 76, and be hailed as a work of art. And it is. It's so varied. Um but for me, I just can't get over the sonics of it because it's at the time. So he's recording it, he's producing it, he's built his own studio at that
Mm.
point. He got a lovely studio, all the real gear, all the real instruments, and you can hear it on it. It's so beautifully recorded. I never get bored. And I always find parts when I play it. I think, oh, I forgot about that part. I forgot about that part. And it's this. So you can. For me, it's like it's the ultimate desert island disc of Mike Oldfield.
It's incredible. It's the first thing that hit me was I've listened to lots of Oldfield. There's lots of ideas there, But the one thing that makes him different from the minimalist composers is he does pack a lot of stuff in, right from tubular bells. There's everything, everything in the kitchen sink. You could obviously, like as though he's almost got like ADHD or something. There's a lot going on in
Yeah,
his own little private world. Here, he seems to have pared that down, especially on the first two sides. And for me, musically, he seems to be developing the actual compositional structure seems absolutely perfect. And
yeah,
it's slow moving. He
yeah,
has a number of elements there. He works with them very well. A lesser composer would not be able to keep up with the minimal amount of stuff, because what he's not doing is what minimalist composers do, because obviously they usually have a small amount of material and they cycle it round and there's a
yeah,
slow
yeah,
process. This is proggy. It goes from one section to the next, and he seems to have, I don't know what it is, but the chord progression that it's based around, which sounds like it's moving in fourths or fifths or
yeah.
something, it's so compelling that you never get tired of it. And I don't know what he's done.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, it's a chord progression. I could understand it from a theory point of view, but I don't know why I want to keep listening to that chord progression. And then when I switch it off, I feel very inspired by that chord
yeah.
progression.
Oh, it's a lovely. It's basically, as you said, it's a really, really, really long round robin thing, which comes back around on itself, and it's overlaid, and it's joining at certain parts and going off and coming back in, which is all the Steve Reich way of
Yeah,
doing it. But I think his pop sensibilities and his are much better than Steve Reich and Philip Glass. As you said, he doesn't milk it to the point of like, you're
yeah.
backed by it. He'll move on to something else. But the opening thing is it goes through every key.
Yeah, that's right. So it sounds like a cycle of fifths, I would
It
say.
is. It just goes up and up and up and up and up. But that's what you feel so uplifting because it's constantly going up,
Yeah.
but never reaching a point of it. And I had to play some of it live. We did a thing. At one of the Mike Oldfield conventions with a little quartet from Spain said, "Oh, will you play bass? We want to do little bits of incantations." And I was like, "Oh my god, go on then, let's have a look at it." And I remember I had a chord chart on the floor, and it was like it went through. I think it was about what's every key basically. It just went up in fifths, but it was like every key. And I was trying to play the bass on it over that guitar solo on side three. It was umba 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 umba, and it was like, "Oh my god, where are we to?" And if anyone got lost, you've had it because
Well, the thing is, if you're moving in fifths, you're moving against the normal cadence that you would have in music.
mm,
And I wonder whether that's what it is, though, rather than feel like the cadence which drops down, like say from a G7 to a C, if
yeah,
you're going from a C to a G, you feel like you're moving up and then you feel G, then you move up. And
it
it's that
is.
ascendancy. But the other thing that really makes it different to the minimalists, and it's the thing I think reason why I've fallen in love with the album, it's got that Englishness in it. I've never heard an album with so much Englishness in it. It's so English. It's got a sound of England.
Yeah,
Fergus Ridge's got that. Omadon hasn't got that. Tubular Bells
no,
has sort of got it. Fergus Ridge has got that, but Fergus Ridge is not. I don't feel it's as conceived as well as this. This is as though he was able to step back a long way and see the overall thing of definitely the two parts,
yeah,
and he nails it. And every time I put it on, because on CD it's all on one thing and it's long, it
yes,
just cycles around really quick, and then I've just leave it to go again, and I just go round and round as though the whole thing's looping round.
it is. It's so clever in its. As I said, it's a maturity. I think it is that he nailed at that point. But I think, but where'd you go after that? I think that's the problem
Mm,
with it. It's the height of his powers doing it sonically, arrangement wise, playing. Like I say, the guitar is off the scale, and you got all the you got Pierre Molan doing the vibraphones on side four, and
mm,
that's amazing. The playing, to play that constantly through all the keys, and they're overlapping. You got all that going on, and you say you got Maddie Pryor from Steel Like Span
mm.
doing the
And it's all based upon an 11 as well. The timing is, you cannot relax on it. It
oh
sounds very natural, but then I thought, well, let's sit in it. And I was driving along and trying to count it. And I
oh
thought,
no, you
well,
can't.
and it's because the way he's dividing it, I think you're not quite sure whether that you're feeling threes or fours. There's a lot going on that's very, very clever. He's a master composer. I just wonder whether him being such a pioneer of this sort of, he invented this person on their own with a multi-track studio and a huge budget behind them. Not many people could do that
No.
then. Do you think he just came to he'd learned his craft?
Well,
Because this
yeah,
is
I
a
think.
very new art form, isn't it?
Well, using the studio, I think,
Yeah.
and the technology. I think by then he was 24 track to do it, so it was much easier to do it. And if you watch the making of Blue Peter,
Mm.
I remember watching that when it came out, and there's a film of, and he made the theme, and it's in the same studio, and it's around the same time, and he just done incantations, so you can see the gear that what he was using, and tape, waiting for the rewind, and using a very basic computer to mix on the desk and stuff. But it's really hard to grasp how you keep a mental um overlook on it all as
Mm.
one big piece. But there's also a lot of the engineers and stuff involved who worked with him doing it. There's talk that there was loads that were binned, and that's what pains all the fans. There's all the stuff that was thrown away.
As
That
there should be. I hate these discs with everything on
I,
it. I
I
hate it. I just think if they make an album, they cut a load of bits off. That's the album. That's it.
but what all the bit, there's like this gold that was thrown away, and you're like, oh my
It
god.
won't be. He threw it away for a reason.
I don't know how many times have we done it? We can do it now. You can go back to it because I think if we some of the stuff you erase, if you done a permanent erase of it, you'd be crying. I've gone back to stuff. Oh my god, that's much better. I'm so glad I didn't get rid of that or copied it back into the mix.
But I learned this from you. I can remember we were up at Rockfield once and we were recording drum tracks, and you went, "Are
Yeah,
you happy with that?" And I went, "Yeah." "Are you happy with that take?" And I went, "Yeah, I'm happy. We're both happy." And then you turned around and said, "Delete the rest."
you got to. I think there's there's definitely something in that. I think especially because there's nothing worse than coming back with like 400 vocals and having to go each line by line. You lose sense of it and it sounds rubbish. If you can grab it there and then, especially with drums and stuff, it should be that's the take then, and then you cut them all up after then, don't
Mm. Well,
it?
with the thing with Oldfield is I didn't realize as well, even when he hit the 1980s, he keeps up making sidelong epics. And it's very interesting. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I got so much to look into here. I've got Crisis on vinyl. I've been listening to that as well. But like you say, it's great. There's some great moments in. There's a great bit of sequence composition in Crisis in the middle. Absolutely wonderful. And Simon Phillips is all over, which is
Oh,
wonderful.
so that he's producing it, but that's what you got. You got incantations. Then he went, let's go to America and hire a load of players because he was probably fed up of doing the multi-tracking, thinking, oh my god, I got to go and play on the bass, got to play the guitar. Let's get an instant, band in the room, play my parts, and did that. And it's a great album. It's a bit hit and miss. Side one is great. Side two has got a few odds and ends on it.
But it seems his compromise
Yeah,
after that point, which he did a lot of albums with this sort of approach, is there's one
yeah.
side long epic, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff that the record company may have as a single.
That's the record
And
company straight coming
yeah,
in.
and of course, when they get to Crisis, that is another special album, I think, because he's got Moonlight Shadow on there, which is of course his huge hit record
Well, it took,
finally. But
took him somewhere
what's
else.
on Platinum? What's the big long epic on that one?
The platinum, you got part one, two, three, and four, and part that's on side one. It's all one
Yeah.
long piece, and it's got amazing guitaring on it. He's really shining this. He's going, "This is me now. I'm playing above everything,"
Mm.
and it's got Pierre Molan's playing drums on it. It's really nice, lovely chords. The guitar is all over the place on it. It's gorgeous. And at the end of side one, he does a cover of Philip Glass, North Star.
Oh yeah, I remember that as well. That was a
And that's
big deal.
beautiful. It's
Yeah.
really good. But again, you feel it and you're thinking, oh, have I run out of ideas to do that? And a rec company is starting to go, because on site to it, and you got a cover, you got I Got Rhythm by George Gershwin. And it's like, oh, the rec company's starting to push. They
Mm.
want a single from this guy, and he's like, oh, can I do it? And it's lovely and everything. It's all really nice. But then the album after that, which before uh he comes back with Crises, is
You too?
Kiwi 2.
Yep.
Well, and it's 5 miles out as well. But
Mm.
Kiwi 2 is definitely a moment where the record company are going, right, we're into the 80s now. Um, the days of doing long form stuff, you've got to forget that. And he ends up doing like Wonderful Land by The Shadows, a cover of that, and a cover of ABBA Arrival, and he's got Phil Collins playing drums on one of the tracks, and he's been produced by David Henschel, who's just done all the Genesis stuff. So he's starting to, and all of a sudden there's synthesizers coming into it, and it's starting to go a bit weird, and then and then it's 5 miles out where he starts using Maggie Riley and does
Mm,
Family Man. And all of a sudden that's a hit, a minor hit, a
mm,
massive hit for all and Hall and Oates in America.
yeah.
And he's thinking, oh, I can do this. And then Crises comes out, and he's like, right, I'm going to write. He writes Moonlight Shadow, and all of a sudden he's about to be dropped probably from the record company because he's not having a hit. Moonlight Shadow comes out, and it's everywhere. It's the hit of the summer, and all of a sudden he's a
Yes.
pop star.
Yeah.
You got Simon Phillips producing it, and he's on his way again on another arc, but a different kind of thing. Then out touring, but and then you think there's only like 3 or 4 years between that. Then Incantations is so bonkers when you think of all the bands, even like Genesis. You think, well, you go from Duke and Abacab, it's been like 3 or 4 years, and you were doing the Lamb. It's like, how do these people? It's really hard to grasp in such a short time the change of.
Well, the thing is that I interviewed Simon Phillips recently on the channel, and it's a brilliant interview. And I've been watching some other interviews with him. And obviously, I did some clinic tours with him, and I rank him as an engineer and producer as being one of the best in the world. He's so knowledgeable in the studio. He learnt to do that on the Crisis album, but when you listen to what actually happened, it's bonkers because again, he's brought in to play drums. Mike Oldfield turns around and says, "Oh, do you want to produce it?" And he goes, "Well, I don't really know how the studio works, but I suppose so."
Yeah.
He agrees to that. He said he turns up the next day. There's an engineer in there, and Mike sacks this engineer. And it's all that's left is Simon. And he said, so he
Do it.
goes in, plugs the acoustic guitar in. He says, Simon's literally pressing random buttons because with a manual about how the desk works.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he said he's pressing it for about 5 or 10 minutes, then click, he hears it through the speakers and goes, right, I could hear it. And from that, that's how he did the album. And Mike didn't seem to mind that Simon didn't know what the hell he was doing. And you wonder whether these people have an ability to open themselves up to some outside vibes, you know.
It must be in it, and because again with Crises, all that there was people in the room. They had Phil Spaulding on bass and Simon because they both come from the Toya. They were
Yeah,
in
that's right.
Toya's
Yeah,
band, so they came in from there. And there was a guy called Ant playing guitar, and they would jam this stuff. And Moonlight Shadow was basically a chord structure that Mike had come up with. Let's jam it. Didn't have no lyrics on top of it for 3.5 minutes. Put it down, and then let's write the song over the top. But it must have been. It's such a luxury to do all that kind of stuff that we don't do we? That's it's a different way of making records. The band in the room kind of thing, and the discovery of. And with technology and stuff, as I said, the Fairlight was coming out, and Mike was one of the first to have one of them, and so that's over everything. And the ability to use it to cut up the vocals and stuff. Because on Moonlight Shadow, you can hear it, and he said when he came to the chorus, it was Moonlight Shadow played on the keyboard as on a Fairlight to get it really clear. You can hear it on the record that he's trying to get it, precise. But I think you must get bored as well. Even when we make records now, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I think with him, you've done Tubular Bells, you've done it, Hugger Switch, All Madonna, you've done Incantations. Where do you go? You you've had a massive,
yeah,
massive. Everyone, it's like it must play with your head and sort of what gets you out of bed in the morning to come and make records. And you're thinking, well, do you take the easiest route then? Whereas I from doing my Sanctuary albums, I know it's a grind having to play everything yourself. It's lovely and exciting, but to keep doing that when you can just go, well, I'll have the best drummer in the world, the best bass player in the world, I'll have them all in the room. Here's a couple of chords. Let's make a record kind of thing. So I can see where your head would fall off, especially if you've got
yeah.
the
I
bank.
think we forget how those 70s albums were made. We forget the fact that there's no click, there's definitely no grid. like on a computer, but there's no click either. And even if he was, because I know on Tubular Bells they set a metronome up in some
Yeah,
other part of the
yeah.
manor house and mic'd it up, which is absolutely ridiculous. You got to go through that just to get something that everyone can count off. But with tape running, that would not be like what we have now, which is absolute time. And so all these albums are done without time. And so it has to be performed, even though it's all overdubbed, and when it is overdubbed, it's still having to be performed. I don't.
Oh
Nobody
God.
can create. Oh, that's a good loop, and I'll just paste that all the way
Oh, you
through.
can't. Well, that's the thing with incantations. When you listen to that with that in mind, and you think this is not done copy paste or repairs or auto tune, that's what I love about it. It's all real, and it's everything is real on there, everything, and it's you can hear it, and to use that palette of instruments on it as well, with all the vocals and all the percussion on it is incredible. You got all the African drums going, you got brands going, and there's all these lovely like vibra slaps which just come in, and it's like it's a sonic masterpiece.
It's just incredible. I really think that this is a record which sold well. It was a success. Nothing's going to ever compare to Tubular Bells because it's one of the biggest selling albums of the 70s. Nothing's going to compare to it. But he still managed to pull something off. And I think it should be celebrated far more than it is.
Yeah,
The other thing is that I've noticed doing the channel is the amount of successful double albums that exist in music history. And the answer is, in terms of studio albums, not many. Genesis tried to do it with The Lamb Lies Down,
yeah,
Topographic Oceans. They were all trying to do it. It was always a bridge too far with Prog.
yeah. No, I
And this,
agree. Yeah,
even War of the Worlds, which I absolutely love, and I think is far more better than any of the prog bands managed on a double album release,
yeah.
is still sagging us around about side three,
It
just a
does.
tiny amount.
It's all that's exactly it.
But this doesn't sag,
Album.
does it? Even though it's even more minimal, it just does. I know a lot of people going, I've heard it. I found it really boring. But for me, my ears, it just flies by. And I listen to the first track, it feels like 5 minutes. I look, oh my God, we're at 17 minutes. It's going to finish now.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I think the only part for me is the Hiawatha bit that where it does go on, and it's I noticed it gets you into a trance. It's that kind of vibe, and I think that was the only
I love that bit. Is that the choir bit on side two?
at the end when it's going round. It's Maddie Pryor doing
Yeah,
the
I love
Hiawatha
it.
poem,
I
and,
that
and
was honestly, it was at that point where I thought, oh my God, this album's genius.
it,
Honestly, because I just was in the car. It was a summer's day. I was driving through the countryside, and I was just in that zone. And there's a stillness to this album where if you said to me something, you said once the bug gets you, that there's a magic in the this is the only
yes,
place you can go and get this sonic world. Only
yeah,
Oldfield's got this sonic world, and only Oldfield's got this sort of compositional approach.
yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm getting sucked in. Like Rob's right, I'm getting sucked
You
into the
will be.
Oldfield world.
You'd be one of them now, one of the followers. No, that's real. You will come out with then, but
But I'm
it's
finding I'm going through other albums. I'm not quite getting what this album's got. Even
oh,
Amadorn's not. Amadorn's like a masterpiece in terms of what he pulls off. Very beautiful, but it's not like this one. This one's got a. There's something in. It's something in it. And
yeah,
it's. I suppose. Well, I never could put it into words. I instantly loved it. I started listening to it, and I just thought, my God, this is amazing. It's in the simple structure because I love Steve Reich and Philip
yeah,
Glass.
yeah.
Steve Reich is often you go if you try and do it, you can't come up with the few
No,
elements,
no, you
and
can't.
you think,
You
well,
can't.
why isn't this working? It's in six and it's doing that, and I'll just phase it and move it across or create this canon, and then you think, well, why does it sound like what he's got? And
Yeah.
it's because the composition's so strong.
It's a real strange album as well because I think it is, as I said, it's unique in its the choice of instruments, and I think if you played it to somebody, you wouldn't know that it was Mike Oldfield, especially side one. If you just played it and go, "Who's this?" They People wouldn't get it. I think with Hergus Ridge and Armadon, perhaps you would get the vibe of it. But with this, and obviously when the guitar comes in, you go, okay, that's Mike Oldfield, whatever. But there's
Mm,
something about side one where it's just different to anything else. I
totally
can't
right.
think of
Yeah.
any other record which sounds anything like it. I can't say,
No.
well, you know, the especially as a whole. And as you said, as double albums go, it's pretty good because I said all the bands like the Yes, Tails. I would love if I had the time. I would love to cut that down to a single album. There's an amazing single album trying to get
That's
out.
what everyone. That's what everyone says. I did another deep dive in it, and I'll tell you something else I noticed. The mix, especially of Alan White, is up and down. The
Oh,
drums are great in certain points, but the drums in other places is not a great sound. And without Bruford sound, which they nailed so much, Alan White, they seem to get it, but it's up and down in terms of the mix. I think. I
it's
think there could be more brought out of it.
it could just be cut. There's parts when you obviously it's written. You can tell it's written by Steve Howe and John Hanson in a hotel room because it's just in my eyes and yours. There's just waffle. There's parts which you go, what's going on here? Let's cut to the chase. And all of a sudden, Chris Squire comes in. Rick Wakeman actually turns his keyboard on. Alan White's up and you go, oh, yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah, you can go do that for a bit longer. Keep. Oh,
Oh my God, I got another 10 minutes of like
yeah.
of awful. And you could really cut it down. And it's the same with Genesis, with the Lamb, I think.
Lamb's better than Topographic, though. I think.
Side
I
one and
like
side
that
two are
more.
brilliant. Side three and four, oh, it's like I want to get to it on the end. I'm
Yeah.
gagging for that to happen on the end. It's like it's really hard, I think, to have discipline. And I think, as you said, War of the Worlds. I think that hangs together. The only other album I would say is a double album which stands up is Out of the Blue. I think that's a lot of good songs. There's very few on there I would want to fast forward through.
Yeah, and again, the actual sort of conceptual side, which brings a lot of songs together,
Yeah,
that requires a double album to have that within the nature of that album.
yeah,
It's interesting looking at double albums, and it's surprising that you start to go, oh God, like The Wall's another one,
yeah.
sags like hell, doesn't it? And they all sit there, and you think, my God, every band that got to a point where we've got to do a double album.
Mm,
Um, and I've been going through them all. I got War of the Worlds on CD, so I had the new version with all been
yeah.
remastered. I put it on in the car, and I was just like, going, "Oh my God!" And again, that's got a sonic tapestry that is of its own.
But it's timeless. I think the thing with War of the Worlds, because I know they tried tarting it all up and putting like disco beats on it, but if you play the original version, it's completely timeless. Same with
Mm.
Incantations. You put it on, you would never know it was done in 1978.
That's right. Yeah,
And the same with War of the Worlds. You go, it's just timeless. It's because it's got bass, drums, which sound amazing. Nothing on it where you go, oh, that's a bit dated. That dates it now. I can tell because the follow up to War of the Worlds, Spartacus. Obviously, you've got that in your collection, haven't you?
yeah,
Oh, and that is all like that's an example of a producer getting caught up with technology because we listen to it. It's all like samples. It's all like boo 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 boo, and that joy of like taking a vocal sample and sticking it up the keys, and it's all that stuff through, and you're going instantly sounds like a 1980s record, terrible, and it
Do you
completely.
think that a lot of the lot of the talent that you had in the progressive rock world, once the options start to get bigger and bigger in the 1980s, they just can't deal with it. If you're going from monophonic synths and you're having to overdub just a chord in
Yeah,
on a Moog, I always think, my God, can you imagine the amount of
yeah,
work you
yeah.
do even before you play it just to work out those lines? Cans and Brahms, which I feel is a complete failure ruins Fragile, that does. But it's such an achievement to pull that off, in a
Oh,
recording studio.
yeah.
If you, then you give people a sampler, and then before you know it, it's all gone to
In the
pot.
wrong hands. See, this, but they all do it. All my favorite keyboard players, they've all, you can see it. They start off with a Hammond, with a Moog and Mellotron. It all sounds lovely and organic and real. And in the 80s, they're all got like sponsorship deals with Korg. Then you've got a Korg terrible version of a Hammond, terrible version of a piano. And you're thinking, oh my God. But then what can you do in it? It's like, what can you
Do you
do?
ever think Oldfield got anywhere near what he achieved on? It's like those, I would say, those four albums. Do you ever think he got
Oh,
close to it, or
I
what?
go through all the catalog, right up, and it's like, after, especially after, the hit record with Moonlight Shadow, and then it was Discovery, and that had like trying to get hit singles on that with To France.
Mm.
Lovely record again with Simon producing. And then you sort of go into again, you got really caught up with all the technology. Next album made with an Atari, and it's all samples. And you're going, oh my God. I think the last, the best record he made after that for me is one called Songs of a Distant Earth. You want to check that out, where it's based on like a Arthur C. Clarke thing, but it's done with drum loops, very much like Enigma sort of vibe, but it was all that slow boom, boom, and lovely pads. But it's absolutely beautiful. And it's like this guitar playing on it is off the scale, as in gorgeousness and choice of chords. But that was the last for me, was the moment of like, oh my God,
Mm.
this is absolutely untouchable. And then yeah, I think just getting pulled by record companies. But again, I go back to that thing of where do you go? The thing that keeps me and perhaps yourself and keeps you going because you're always thinking, oh, I want to achieve. I make a record because you're looking for success. You're looking for, well, not so much that, but more making something which is, but if you did that on your first record, where'd you go? Your first record hits where you
Yeah.
want to go in life. There's only down after that. Where'd you go? And that's where, Mike's made 20 albums since Tubular Bells, whatever. That's a lot of, after your first one is and everyone thinks that's the best, and nobody wants to hear the rest because they love that. They all want to hear that first 5 minutes. And that must be a real to play with your head. So I think to come out with Incantations as album 4 that's pretty
Yeah,
good.
there's some he's much greater than I've often thought he's 19 when he does Tubular Bells, right? None of it should have happened. He shouldn't have been ended up in a recording studio having just able to make this album on his own, right?
Yeah,
He shouldn't have been connected to a record label that was just set up by some sort of layabout, you know, posh person that, and it shouldn't have been a hit. And it shouldn't have been picked up by The Exorcist. None of this should have. It's like one thing after another, which just takes this really weird guy
yeah.
and throws him in the middle of this maelstrom, which he actually negotiates pretty well, I think, when you look at it. It must have absolutely done his head in to wonder who am I and what am I doing? Am I a genius? Am I not a genius? You know, what do I do next? What do they expect from me? And a lot of the time he must have thought, I've got the millions, why don't I just sit and just disappear?
But that's what he did. But you think, say, 19 for Tubular Bells and 25 for Incantations, if you're lucky. If
Mm.
that, I can't imagine a 25 coming up, being going into the studio and creating that, writing, playing it, putting it together. Where does that come from? At 25 to do that, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, he occupies his own space. I mean, there's people going to like Jean-Michel Jarre are going to come in and do all their thing, but that it's all synth driven and it's a different type of thing. Mike Oldfield is a multi-instrumentalist. He's got very old, in fact, incredibly old instruments on there that go back thousands of years, and
Yeah.
he's got very new sounds. And he's the only guy. He gets labeled as progressive rock, but there's no one else that is sitting there making albums on their own in the way he does.
But no one else did, and that was the weird one, and that's what he said, and that's what triggered me to do my stuff. He said, why weren't there loads of bands or players after me doing it? Because there's no one, nobody, as I said, Vangelis, synths, pianos, a little bit of classical,
Mm.
but there's no one else. Jean-Michel Jarre was all keyboards, so nobody did that. But I think that the other problem was the record companies really struggled. Can you imagine, all those executives coming, sitting down in the room and listening to that to Incantations side one, having just, probably heard, what about it, 78, they'd be like, God, they just signed the Sex Pistols. They were looking for punk. They were trying to change their image.
Yeah, but I
77.
don't think the record companies really understood because obviously, you know, whilst all that's going on, War of the Worlds is literally selling 15 million copies in the
Yeah,
UK. It's like I've argued this that prog thing, which is when I came into
yeah.
music in '78. There was so much stuff around at that time, and I wonder why that didn't fit into that. Well, probably because it wasn't used as the soundtrack to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or if I mean, he lived off that Exorcist theme, didn't he? You know him through that. Most people who came to him through that, and you just cannot do that again. You know, I
No,
mean, in the 80s, he did The Killing Fields, and it's a really successful soundtrack, but it never.
it's not the
It,
same. No, it's not on
no,
that scale and stuff. Everything was right, but I think in '78 the record company they were fed up of being known as the hippie band, hippie label. They wanted to
mm,
go. They could see punk was coming around the corner. They wanted all those bands on it. They wanted to reinvent themselves. You've got this guy who's worked his arse off to come up with this amazing bit of work, and they just went, "This is not what we want. This is not what we want." It must have been really painful to have that and to knock you back. But I just hope that that at some point somebody will realize that it is a work of art and it should be hailed as a classical piece. It should be played and performed. I've
yeah.
only once I've seen it performed. These mad Spaniards tried playing the whole of it, and they had like about 60 or 70 people on stage, and they played the whole thing from end to end, and it was amazing. It was like, the only hard bit to pull off is the guitar solo in the. And I felt for the guy because there was a pressure because you had like 1,000 Mike Oldfield fans waiting for that moment.
And did he play it note for note?
He did it, and then it got a little bit lost. And
Yeah,
it
because
was
you
like,
don't. 'Cause the whole thing with it, Mike sounds, and same with his brother. His brother's incredible on flute.
yes.
That flute playing is incredible. It's an incredible flute piece. And I'm thinking, is he improvising or is this all worked
Oh,
out? Because either way, it's bonkers.
it's all written, but the problem is live. Everyone, and there was another someone else said about Phil Collins on about the drum fill in the air tonight. And he just said, "Well, I just played it. It just came out. I didn't go. Oh, I'm going to go ba 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 whatever. It just came out, and it's become you got to play it. And 90% of guitar solos on records are just either first take, and then they're improvised, but because everyone knows them and they go to see it live, they want to hear it exactly the same. Comfortably numb, Dave Gilmour's got to play it exactly the same. I don't
Yeah, I hate that. If I was going to go and see Incantations live, I want to see Oldfield play that guitar solo. And there's no other choice. You can't have someone else do it
know,
because that's him. It's not a classical composition, it's rock music in
but
the end.
you would want to hear those notes because it's become part of it's the melody. So every guitarist has got to play exactly the same because that's what it is. What started as an improvised guitar solo has become a part, and on every and there's so many bands make I've got to play exactly the same. Like Freebird, Hotel California. People go and they want to hear exactly the same guitar solo because it's written in stone. But when they did the guitar solo, they didn't think, oh, I
No,
it just came out. And now
yeah.
go back and learn it. Amount of times we do it in prog. You probably did it with drumming. You put a ridiculous thing in, and all of a sudden people want to hear that, and you've got to bloody learn it. Especially if you're miming a video, you know that. Right?
Yeah, I'm rubbish at that. You know, I'm rubbish at I can do it, I just can't be asked.
That's the problem. But people expect, it's you dig yourself a hole. The amount of times I put like a crazy keyboard solo on, then you shit, I got to play that live, and you got to go
I've got
back and
I've
learn
got
it.
I've got a drum session. I can't tell you what it's for, being sworn to secrecy, but it could be a really big thing. If it comes off like I think, it's a charity thing, that's all I'm going to say. But if
Yeah.
it comes off, it could be one of the biggest things I've done. And I was chatting with Rob Grocott about the production process. And he says, look, Andy, um, because we've got to do it all in one take. I don't want to give too much away, but
Yeah, go on.
and I
Sorry.
and I said, well, I'm going to have to learn the drum part that's there absolutely note for note, which I haven't done for literally 15, 20 years. And I find it really, even with a simple part to
Yeah.
do, because it stops the flow. So, but I am going to have to do that tomorrow to try and get in
Ooh,
and
yeah.
deliver that type of thing. And that all you're really adding is the idea of there's a real drum kit there, and there's some, breath and life in the take, and it's unbelievably hard to do that type of thing. I think hopefully this video amongst my little fan base, people will go, oh yeah, well, when we can have an incantations. I got it here. I've got it actually
Go
here.
on. It's
Yes. I bought two albums. I bought that, which is Billy
yes,
Scott,
yes, lovely,
and the other album I picked up, which is really great, Rick Astley, Free. His third album.
fantastic album.
Great album, I know.
Yeah.
And
He was
um,
proper then when he was proper singer and band and writing and production and everything.
he's a prog fan.
I know everyone is. Everyone's, it's just they hide it.
But can you imagine if you and me could nail Rick Astley to do an album together, a prog album, like a
Prog album.
full-on prog album? I think he's into Camel.
Is it all
I
right?
think
Okay.
so. I think that he really loves Camel. So I keep saying it in the hope that somebody says there's these mad guys on the internet want to do a prog album with you. We do. Would you do it with Rick Astley?
God, possibly, yeah. It'd be interesting. Wouldn't it be different? Because he can sing. He's a great singer.
You bloody see, the reason why I bought that album was because I was in Tesco's and they had Michael McDonald on, and I was thinking, "Whoa, brilliant singer!"
Oh,
But when it first had come on, I thought that's Rick Astley. Oh no, it's Michael McDonald. And then I walked home thinking he's a really good singer, Rick Astley is. And then
yeah.
I checked out his catalogue and came across that album. So,
Classic album, man. Yeah, it's really good. But yeah, so let's hope that we can get incantations back up there. So there's the three becomes four. That's what we want
should
there.
that's exactly what I wanted to do, and I wanted to, because you're such an expert on this. I've had a couple of people say, "Oh, Platinum's amazing," and I was thinking, well, does Platinum? Do you put that one in?
No,
QE2 was a big album. I can remember that coming out, and that was a big album when that came out. But you
yeah,
haven't given it the thumbs up, really.
no. They're all great in a way, but the first those are the four for the fans, and amazing. I think most people love incantations. They do amongst all the fans. So preaching to the converted there, but it's just overlooked. As they all are. But I'm glad that you've discovered it. That's great.
Well, that's the proof, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because I literally thought, oh, let's check this one on. And now, I've done really been listening to these. So I've got them vinyl, got one in my studio, and been listening to them a lot. I thought I'd check out these incantations, and straight away, about 5 minutes in, I was thinking, I love this.
yeah,
Because if
good.
I buy a CD, it
Yeah.
means I really love it. I
Okay.
really love it. That's the thing, because I hardly buy anything now. So if I'm ordering off Amazon for something, that means I love it. So hopefully we've shown it some love. So you're working on the Magenta album. When's that come out?
November, possibly, if I can get it finished on the last bits of it, doing that. Yeah, that's next, and various bits and bobs, and then I start again on another Sanctuary album.
Which is that Sanctuary 17? What is
I can't
it?
remember. Yeah, I think it's 17,
No,
16. I don't know,
that's
but
six, is it? Have you done five already?
oh, I've done four. I've done four
Oh, so
officially on the number five, but we just about four came out a couple of months ago,
are you
and
ever going to bind these albums all together? Is there any point where you're going to go, right, that's it now? And you've got a number. I mean, seven would be a lovely number to do, wouldn't it?
would
Seven,
stop.
and then
Yeah.
you go, right, and then you could bring out a whole
Oh,
thing in one go.
possibly. I just got to find something with each album, you've got to find something new on it. So I've got an idea for the new one, and uh, how to change it a bit, really. But yeah, it's done really well, and it's each album comes out, more people are understanding what it's all about and being a lot more forgiving on it, so which is really good.
Do you feel like you are carving out your little space in the world of Mike Oldfield?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think people are, but the first one come out, and everyone's like, oh, what's this? What's this? What's he trying to do? By this point now, people, I'm in it for the long haul, and I think people are coming around, and the fact that Mike has stopped doing it as well, and I'm finding my own space amongst it as well. Musically, it's a lot more me now. I think you you do get a little bit confused on times,
Well, because
but
we were working together right back in the when you first did the first one, so you spoke to me a lot, and I got it. The fact that you weren't interested in redoing the composition again, you were interested in using that palette of sounds.
yeah,
Which is something Oldfield doesn't actually stick to if you think about it as he
no,
goes on. But that so you enjoy working with that palette of sounds, and it was really interesting when you did the first album because all the proggers were going, well, he's just done an album that sounds like Mike Oldfield. I'm thinking, yeah, but you've all just done an album that sounds like either Genesis or Pink Floyd. And you've done Cinema Show for the 18th time. It's like
this is it, isn't it? This is and this we shall have a definite our next discussion will be on um plagiarism versus your musical influences, if that makes any sense. Because I think that there's a whole. I'm not going to do it now because I get caught
no,
drawn
no, no. I want my regular. I mean, this is why we've got to keep in touch because I'd have you on once a month.
in.
So
Discuss that. There's a big conversation about that, and I've definitely got a lot to say about that. Having gone through the mill and some of the abuse, and with the whole sort of sanctuary stuff. But I'm out the other side of it now. But it's definitely got some thoughts on that one. We'll discuss
The
that
other
again.
thing I want to have a chat to somebody about that knows about production is the whole stem splitting technology that's
Oh,
there at the moment because when we've been doing sessions now where we're filming the thing on it's too bizarre this is on an iPhone because it actually will
yeah,
record the audio pretty well just
yeah,
on the one iPhone, stem split the audio, separate it all up,
yeah,
rebuild it up from the bottom, full production track. And I've been played stuff that my friend's doing like that, where he's literally filming a band on iPhones, three cameras,
yeah,
taking it away, stem splitting it, and it's just sounding like a record.
yeah,
And the thing that I really want to chat to someone about, because no one seems to have clocked it yet, is when is everyone going back to all those bootleg albums and all those not so great live albums and splitting
yeah,
them and then producing fully produced new albums,
yeah,
which aren't like II, they are the band playing.
yeah.
And there's a Deep Purple album, Deep Purple Live in London, which is an absolute incredible BBC recording. And I was chatting to Phil Aston over at was it Now Spinning or whatever his YouTube is, and I said I fancy getting burn off that and stem splitting it and
Yeah,
remixing it.
the only problem might be you might discover something you don't want to hear because you might stem split a live album and actually hear the studio door closing. You know what I mean? That's a great take, thanks. On the vocal. So,
Yeah, it's there's so much that no one's discussed with the AI. Are you using it much?
no, again, that's another. We will have a conversation because that's all I talk about with people at the moment is AI, where it's going, where
Yeah,
I think it's going to go,
AI mastering.
all that kind of stuff, and all the voice replacement stuff, compositional stuff, and there's so much to think about. But I think we're all right. That's all I can say. But there's definitely a big conversation to be had around
Yeah,
it.
we'll do that next. Brilliant chatting to you, Rob.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
So, everybody who's watching the video, stick a like on it, stick a subscribe on it, go down into all the links below, join my Patreon, join all the things that Rob hasn't got because he's old school. Have you got a Patreon yet?
I don't do anything old school.
Oh, God.
I know.
Go and join all that, support me and all that type of stuff. Go and check out Rob's stuff if you've never seen it. Go and check out Magenta. Go and check out Cyan, absolutely great prog. Go and check out Sanctuary. Go and check it all out. It's a whole world there. Rob is one of the guys I respect on this little British progressive rock scene. He is one of the guys, still here, strong,
No.
delivering the prog, and that's what we need. So go and check all that out. I'll put some links down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.